Hi, everyone. So, today we're going to talk about social media scrolling, the powers of social media and scrolling, and what it can do to you, and how you could help it and help yourself. So, if you're on social media in any type of way, whether that's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, really anything that causes you to scroll a lot, um, and I'm going to include the dating sites as well, um, because it's anything that includes scrolling. And we're also going to get into the shopping section as well. And so it's just this this mini episode is just about the for you to be aware. And so once that awareness comes, or if you've already had some of these thoughts, it puts you in a space where you could at least have some separation from it in a way that like you will be reminded before you go on, or at some point when you're on, that like, oh, this is what I'm doing, or this is also happening to me, and what did she say that I could do to help myself. And so scrolling. So just being aware if you're judging. So oftentimes when people have social media, let's say it's Instagram and it's full of a lot of friends that they have, and it's a lot of friends that maybe they don't talk to or whatnot. So we're just speaking generally, and we're also going to include people that they follow that like they don't know, but maybe they're like funny memes, or they're celebs that they like, or I don't know, fashion people that they follow, or makeup artists, or whatever it is, or gym people. And so what's important to know is that it's about the idea that like, it's not an idea, it's just about the fact that like you're scrolling and you might be judging. So you could be like a very kind, loving, positive person, but you might be judging. And I'm not saying you're a judgy person, but that, let's say it's a muscle, and we're activating it, we're enhancing it, we're strengthening it. So as we're scrolling, we're judging maybe one person that sometimes annoys you, or this time annoyed you, or and for the next month you were just like, anytime they posted, you're like rolling your eyes, or making noises like ugh, or annoyed, or this. And so imagine you're doing that every day. But if you were doing that in real life, you might be like, oh my god, this person is really bothering me. But on social media, sometimes people are not noticing it as much, or if they are, if it's like really intense and they really, are not good with the person, sometimes maybe, there's a space for people to not unfollow, but not see this person's post as much, depending on what social media you're using, perhaps. But so it's that idea of like, what are you strengthening? What are you doing every day, right? It's all about like being mindful of your moments. So obviously, social media is not a mindful place, but you could use it as a tool, or a resource if you'd like. And so, so I'm going to show you like, if you what happens, like how you could get off of it as well, or how you could not spend as much time on it, because I went through that. I have to practice what I preach. And so years ago, I was on Instagram a lot, and I was noticing that. I was like, oh, it's making me like more judgmental. It's making me more like this and that. And like, as more people kept coming on Instagram and it became so popular, and then I was like, okay, how do I get off? And then I noticed like, oh my God, an hour passed by, or half an hour, or whatever. And it was like, oh, I didn't even notice. And so, and it's not in a good way. And then I noticed that like, oh my God, I'm noticing like this judgy critic part that is coming up a lot. And like, that's not who I am. That's not how I operate daily, but it was like being activated. And it was continuous. And then I was also following like these funny memes that I thought were like funny, but some of them had like a bit of dark humor once in a while. And so as I was following it and whatnot, it was just like, oh, it's not as like positive as it should be, you know? And so I was like, oh, I'm activating that. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna unfollow all of them, and then I'm just gonna follow a lot more positive memes and positive quotes and stuff like that. But then I was coming on there and like, you know, it's already such like a rush to your brain. And so, and it's an addiction already. And then on top of that, like I was getting this like positive quote thing. So I had to start priming myself before I went on as well, being like, okay, I'm only going on to check this specific thing. Or whatever it was. And then I got to the point where I was just like, okay, no, I'm still getting stuck on it once in a while. Because my thumb was just naturally going there, had like a mind of its own. And so I had to create barriers. So I had to put it in a file in my phone, like 3 pages into a file. So I put a bunch of apps into like a folder. And then so I put it on the last page. And then after a while, I got used to that and I kept going to that automatically as well. And then before I knew it, I was like, how did I get on here? And then so I started to sign out. And then signing out was really helpful. And then I noticed like, oh, a week went by and I didn't go on. And then I would be like, oh, it was as if it kind of like I could say it's kind of like when like I was like young in high school and we used to watch even elementary school perhaps, but I don't know why we were watching it then. But anyways, we used to watch a lot of soap operas. Not a lot, just the two main soap operas we used to watch. And it was like, you know, you really wanted to know what was going to happen because there was so much suspense and cliffhangers of like, oh my God, something big and dramatic happened. And then, so it was like addictive in that way. But then some days, like, you had no choice but to miss it because, like, of school or something. And then all of a sudden, like, a month went by and you're just like, oh my God, I missed so much. And then you come back and you're like, oh, yeah, a lot of things happened, but like it catches you up quickly, or it was like a lot happened, but nothing happened. Sometimes I felt in some soap operas, and it was just like, oh, okay, so it's just like a repeating cycle of these cliffhangers. So just that idea, I feel like, is similar. And so when I would go back on social media, it was like the same stuff. It was like the people are posting similar types of pics and this, and like, yeah, of course you miss some pics and miss some stuff, but it was like, oh, okay, wasn't that big of a deal. So the more I kept being off of it, like a week, and then it would be like several weeks, and then sometimes I would find myself back on several days in a row, and then I'd be off for like a month, and then it started getting longer and longer from there. But the signing out was really helpful. And then I decided that I'm only going to sign in when I decided to finally delete the app. I was like, and I started telling people that would like once in a while direct message me as friends to send me like funny things. I was like, oh, okay. So I started telling them that like I'm not coming on or I'm rarely on. And so they didn't expect like a response back there. And then when I decided to delete the app on my phone and then only go on it on a browser, because then, which I'm sure it's like that now, and TikTok is, I believe, still like that now too. It's their browser experience is not that great. They want you on the phone, so the experience on the phone is a better, smoother experience. It keeps you on, but on your laptop or on like a non-phone, it's, or maybe on tablet it's like that too. I'm not sure, I haven't used it on tablet, um but it's that idea that like it's not that great and it doesn't make you want to stay on at all. Or then it didn't make me want to. And so so that was really great and helpful. And then I would say like less than a year. I feel like it was within 6 months. I'd have to think about it some more, but it was a certain amount of time where then I was able to finally like deactivate and delete it, because once you're off for a long period of time, or even like when I started noticing it by like a 1 week time and then a 1 month time and stuff like that, and realizing like it was like you're creating a separation from this bubble that is there, and you're just like, oh, like this is like a bubble, and like it's like I don't need to be part of that world. Like I had so much more of my time back. I had so much more of like, life back. And then I would see that, like, when I'd be sitting with friends, they were like, also their thumb had a mind of its own, and it would just like go to Instagram, and it was hard to get their attention back, and stuff. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, I definitely have my attention, and I started to notice that, like, my attention was getting better, because, like, scrolling, I think videos, the time that I deleted Instagram was a time like videos were just about to start. I don't think it was like a normal thing yet. Like putting like short videos a lot wasn't as much. It was still a lot of pictures. And so yeah, and then same thing with other social medias, right? Like even for YouTube, if like a short video comes up automatically for you, there's like three dots. And you could press it when you leave the short videos, and it says, and you press show less short videos. And you might have to do that many times throughout, because it always wants to show you that, because it keeps you on the app. But yeah, and then you could always mess around with the algorithm as well. Like it's like just go on purposefully for 5 minutes and press things that you wouldn't regularly like not negative things, but things that like you have no interest in. So it's like anytime you come on, you're just like, what is this? And you kind of want to get off, which is kind of how like a lot of social media like kind of was then, because it was the algorithm wasn't that great when they started, like TikTok and stuff. It's not as good as it is now, where it's able to really understand what you like and push videos, so you constantly are looking through and scrolling through videos. But putting it in a different folder, signing out, going on a browser and stuff like that are really helpful. And it's like, oh well, some people, like, I know, will say like, oh well, I go on there to get updates on something that's happening news wise, because I think a lot of people are using TikTok for stuff like that, or to get specific information. Well, then you could still sign out, or you like, that's an option, but or putting it in a folder, and if you notice that you're going back automatically to that folder, you need to switch it around again. And if it's not an option for you right now to delete it off your phone, then I would suggest, like, before you go on the app, you create like a time where you're just like, okay, I'm just going on the app, and I'm just going to go to this person. And as soon as you're about to click on the app, you're having this conversation, right? You're like prepping yourself. You're having this conversation that, like, okay, before I go on this app, I'm just going to go search this person's name to see, like, what they posted. Like, I'm not going to be scrolling and waiting for the app to tell me what I need to see. So you have somewhere in mind you're going to go. So because as soon as it pops up, it might pop up with something that's like really grabbing your attention. So as soon as you open it, you're going to the search engine. You're not like, okay, whatever comes up doesn't matter. I'm going to that search engine, and you're putting in what you need to, and you just go to that person's like one video that you want to see like an update on perhaps. And then you get out of there. You get in and you get out. Okay. So yeah, that's the idea. So yeah, so like it could, like, find a way to make it work for you, right? It's a tool. It's a tool, and you want to use it. You don't want it to use you, and to gain all this data and information and lock you in and stuff like that and take up your time. So how could we use it to our benefit? So yeah, so like also as well with any of these short videos and all that stuff, it's about being mindful of the fact that, like, are you judging what kind of thoughts are coming up? And because a lot of times many people's, like, the mind, how it works, it's that these thoughts are coming up and people are believing that those thoughts are them, because it has like this, the voice sounds like them and whatnot, and maybe they've acted on these voices and stuff. So that's why, like, meditation is so good, to separate yourself from those thoughts, and remind yourself that you're a kind, loving person. And so you become more mindful in your actions and your day to day and stuff like that, instead of letting these thoughts that come up control you, and stuff. So on social media, these thoughts are coming up a lot. There's a lot of thoughts of like, what is this person wearing perhaps? Or, oh my God, I would never do that. Like, it could be a lot more judgmental thoughts. It could be some positive thoughts too, but there are other thoughts that come up because you're scrolling and you're not controlling what you're seeing. It's controlling what you're seeing. And so things come up, and it could be like, oh no, I've had a, some people might say like, oh no, I've had like a really positive experience and I'm always thinking positive thoughts. So I ask you to go back on social media on purpose and put like a 2 minute timer, and see like, is that actually what's happening? And if it is, that's great. But are you going to wait for it to finally start showing you things that, like, might make you more judgmental, might make you have more of a critic type uh, of thoughts, critical type of thoughts? So you don't want to wait for that, right? So you want to know like, okay, well, I want to use it as a tool, or I want to go on there to see like family pictures or family videos. But so like, you could even tell your family or friends, if you talk to them, like, oh, okay, this person posted. Okay, I'm going to look back at what they posted the past few weeks. I'm only going to go on once every couple weeks or something, or whatever it is, like just have it work for you. So you're not being controlled, because it's the idea of scrolling, and less like your attention span is shortening. But the great thing is the brain is so strong, I would say, in that is rewirable. So when you notice that, like, you come off for a bit, and you might be, some people, like, you might be a little antsy because it's kind of like your attention span is just used to like seeing things like so fast. Like, it's not used to like as much peace and quiet, so it's harder to like sit still and do nothing, or what people call bored, but it's like oftentimes calmness. So or playing with your dog and being present without holding your phone. It's like you're noticing that, like, oh, I need to be doing something at all times, or I need to be doing something while I'm washing the dishes and stuff like that. And it's not, there's nothing wrong with you. It's that they used a lot of psychology to figure out how to keep your attention span and keep you addicted on these apps. And so, and that's why I didn't even post on Instagram for many years, because it was like, I just felt so unethical about it, that I was like, oh, but I'm going to get business from there. But then I'm going to be like, I'm so against it. So for years I didn't. And then when TikTok came up and it wasn't addictive like it is now, it still had some addiction qualities, but not the way it is now. I was using that, but then like in recent years, I always knew like YouTube was a bit more stable before they brought the short videos. But even then I was like, okay, well, I finally came to the realization that people will at least start recognizing that I'm the one that represents like not being or staying on it. So um, when they see me, they'll start associating it with coming off, or I'll give them tools to help themselves in everyday life. And so after many years, I was able to like be okay with that, or else like it's I'm focusing on YouTube just because the other apps are just way too addictive, even though of course YouTube Shorts can be too. But it was just like an ethical ordeal within. And for me, I can't follow through if it's that unethical, and if I'm aware of it, especially. And so it has to make sense for me. And so I was going to even start putting like hashtags, like, get off, or some type of abbreviation, so people like know that, like, I mean, like when I post something, it also doubles as like get off social media type of situation. But yeah, um so let's get back into the scrolling part, the judging. And so how does this relate to the shopping online? Like, how is that related? Because oftentimes we could separate, like, oh, social media scrolling is so bad and whatnot, but we're separating it from shopping online. Shopping online is like very much a thing, especially in North America, and a lot of people have become used to it after COVID. And so, because a lot of them are also offering like free delivery after this amount. And so it's just the convenience is just so high and stuff, and people are, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people like might need it. It might just be like it's maybe safer for them to get it delivered, or more accessible for them to get it delivered than them going out. So, but just being aware of the thoughts that you're having as you're scrolling through shopping. And I know that could sound ridiculous if you're thinking of like groceries or this or that, but if you're like constantly annoyed and you're on a website or an app to buy groceries, buy food, buy clothes, are you being mindful of like, oh, am I judging the clothes constantly, but in a way that's like not positive, not something that, something I want to be or know that I am. So am I constantly being like, ugh, or oh my God, this is so like ugly, or this is so, whatever it is, you're constantly having these voices and judging and judging and judging. So being mindful that like, okay, well, is this translating here as well on these apps? So being mindful of that. And so what could we do to be to like help reverse it? Because sometimes we might be on these like apps a lot, or on these things a lot. Just if it's the app and like the layout and everything is just like bothering you, just being like, oh well, like, this is like, try to make like it into a funny thing. Or you could acknowledge, like, you could still acknowledge the fact that like, okay, this layout isn't that great, I do see it, but let's see the fun in it. And like, the person making it, maybe they don't realize, or they don't know better, or it's like you could just find reasons and understandings so that you're not constantly triggered and having these fluctuations of emotions on these apps. Like, you don't want these apps and your daily life of having to shop, or weekly life having to shop, having these fluctuations of emotions. I'm not saying emotions are bad, but you don't want this external thing to be controlling you. And so saying things like, when you're shopping, even for clothes, be like, oh, nice, well, that's not for me. And so in the beginning, it might be a little bit of trial and error of trying to find the right words that suits you, something that you would say, but trying to find words that aren't judgmental, aren't critical, and thoughts will come up that are, because maybe it's just like it's just like, oh my God, who would wear that type of thing? Or rolling your eyes at the prices of things or whatnot. But you could use these moments as opportunities as well. Like, if you're going to be on the app, if you don't have another option, or this is what is best for you at this point, using these apps as an opportunity to make yourself more abundant mentally, to, when you look at prices, not react so intensely. You could say like, oh well, as long as the quality is good, right? You could use these moments as opportunities. And so using it as times where it could help you in your regular life. So you could be like, oh well, yeah, that's not for me, but like, oh, interesting, well, I hope that person likes it. Or, well, I'm sure someone will like it, but that's not for me. And it's just like, well, that could translate into your regular life, because you're increasing this habit of like not being judgmental, not wanting to use those words. And it's like, and to be also very present is to also just look at it and just try not to have any thoughts or any emotions about it. Or emotions can arise, and letting it pass. The thoughts can arise and you watch them, let it pass. But a lot of these things are a process. So putting yourself in a process for yourself. So it's just like, okay, well, I'm going to start with positive thoughts. And so doing that and being okay and having compassion for yourself that these thoughts come up, and that you are okay that sometimes you might identify with these thoughts and might say it out loud, because like, it was just like, okay, come on, like this is ridiculous, like what is this person wearing or something on this shopping site. But then after a while you're just like, well, that thought came up. I don't have to identify with those thoughts. and I could just like watch it and let it go. And it's because now you're being a bit more mindful, so you could even like write down the regular types of thoughts you just had and be like, okay, these are the types of thoughts that regularly come up, and these are not me. What kind of thoughts do I want to have instead of these? So when these thoughts come up, you know what they sound like, and you could just write down on a little post-it. You could just write down, oh, okay, instead of this, I'm gonna just say, oh, that's nice. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. You don't have to lie. If it just feels like more uneasy for you to like say something too extreme another way, but you could say like, oh, that's interesting. And then you could even put it in like a calendar for yourself. Be like, okay, by August, I want to be able to just like scroll without like judging and stuff. So you're using these times as opportunities, right? Like everything in your life you could use as an opportunity. And it's a lesson you could learn from it, and it's something that you could use as tools, right? And so yeah, so shopping is something I noticed recently. I used to talk about Instagram many years ago and how I noticed that happening, the judgment of it and the critical voice and stuff being loud because it was so not like me, and so I was able to hear it. But if you're like used to it, if you grew up with it and whatnot, or depending on your life and stuff, you might think that like, oh, these voices are me, right? And so my background in psychology, I'm sure, also helped. And so yeah, so shopping was a big one that I wanted to get into. And also, okay, so dating, I noticed in like recent years that I like was on an online dating app, and I even got off for I feel like 2 and a bit years or maybe even longer. And so because I just like it was I was noticing that I was scrolling and there was a bit of judgment, but it's okay to be discerning. Discerning is like, oh, this is not for me and this is whatnot. But then after some time, if you're on for a long time, for many months, you're just like, oh, well, I'm being a bit more critical in a way that's like maybe not healthy. But also I noticed that like sometimes I was doing it more in the evening time, and so when you're like scrolling really fast, it's still like something that is not good for your attention span. So I noticed that like I was like, why is like my attention span and the way like my brain is as if like flipping through like pages really fast like that, but going through images, I felt like it was doing that um, when I was scrolling on dating apps just for like 5 or 10 minutes, like max, because like 5-10 minutes could be a long time sometimes on it because I'm not sometimes scrolling all the way down because I have it set up with like certain compatibility stuff, and so yeah. Excuse me. Hope that wasn't too loud for people. But anyways, I'm sorry. And but yeah, so I'll try to cut that out so that it's not too loud for people's ears. But yeah, so scrolling at nighttime, not good. Scrolling during the day was also not good. So I had to start putting like a bit of limits and trying to be more mindful when I go on. I'm just like, okay, after this certain amount of people that I've looked through with certain amounts of compatibility. So like a bunch of them might not have compatibility at that time. And then I found like, okay, 2 did after many scrolls, then I would get off. And then yeah, so then that was a bit helpful, but I found that like, I had to be extra mindful of like not being critical or having these critical thoughts that might come up. Um, because you see a lot of things that like you would never see in regular day life being posted on these dating sites, that it was, I think, a bit shocking for me that I was like, oh, okay. And so for me, I was like, oh, but like, is that making me a bit critical? And I was just like, well, no, I'm glad that this, like, I started telling myself like, and I truly believed it, that I was like, this person, I'm so glad that they're showing me like who they are, so that, they find someone that's right for them. It's not for me, and it's like someone for them that's compatible with like where they are in their life. And obviously, like, not everyone's like, showing up truthfully online, but yeah, so that was like interesting. But also being discerning online is also really helpful because, like, you're on a dating site, so you want to be able to pick out what you can, if you are able to, so that you can narrow down people that you want to, narrow down to one person that you want to go out with. But yeah, so yeah, the dating one and the shopping one I really want to get into, but it goes back into just social media or anything that you're scrolling through. And so, in all of this, I would just like to conclude that, like, it's just about being mindful, being prepped before you go on these sites, that, like, oh yeah, this is what it's going to do. She mentioned that, these thoughts might come up and they're not me, and I don't have to choose to believe those thoughts, and I could choose other thoughts. And oh yeah, I keep having these similar thoughts that come up. So you could even like plan, like, okay, I'm just going on and I'm going to just like see what thoughts come up, and just like write down several of them and come up with opposite, and then get off and come up with several opposite ones. So every time those thoughts come up that are critical, and I'm like, oh, that's not who I am, that doesn't align with me, that's not how my highest and best self that I see, will think or act, I'm going to, come up with like words and phrases that are more aligned with who I am or who I want to be, to bring that into the moment now, so I could be abundant mentally, now. And so yeah, so I hope this helps, and I hope that, you understand, that you are very powerful, and that you get to use these things as tools, and they don't have to use you. And so yeah, so I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, magical, magical day.